Hello everyone, I'm Fatima Cardoso. I'm a medical oncologist and the director of the breast unit at the Champalimaud Clinical Center in Lisbon, Portugal. I'm also the president of the Advanced Breast Cancer Global Alliance. I am joined today by Eva Schumacher-Wolf, who is the founder of the magazine Mamma Mia and also an MBC patient. And it's our job today to discuss with you clinical trial participation. What exactly is a clinical trial and why it's so important to participate? I know from the point of view of science, the clinical trials are the best way to advance our knowledge. It is also the only way to prove that the new treatment is better than the treatment that we have. But they can be scary for patients and they can be confusing for both patients and healthcare professionals. And that's why we are here today to clarify some of the questions and myths about clinical trial participation. Right, Eva?
Thank you, Fatima. So my name is Eva Schumacher-Wolf. Thank you for the introduction. You already said that I'm the chief editor of Mamma Mia Breast Cancer Magazine and metastatic breast cancer patient myself. And the topic clinical trials is not only important for myself, for all of us, because the therapy we are doing today is a result, or the knowledge is a result of former clinical trials and of patients who participated in earlier times. So we benefit today from this knowledge, which gives us quality of life, but also time. And we have to make sure that we will also have options in the future. And as Fatima said, so we need trials in order to see whether new treatments are better than old ones, or whether we stuck to the standard of care, which might also be possible, but we need more clinical trials because especially in a metastatic disease, time of the disease, we need options for the future because this is our life. So I'm happy to discuss this topic and maybe clarify a few questions that patients might have concerning clinical trials.
Let's do it then.
Yes.
So perhaps we can go through the different phases of a clinical trial and to explain, and also the different processes that a patient goes through to enter a trial.
Exactly. So as far as I understood, there are 4 phases with from little to many patients, but I'm sure you can explain much
So
better.
let's say that a clinical trial, we divide the phases of a clinical trial from 1 to 4. And the phase 1 is the first time you give a treatment to patients. So you start with a limited number of patients, and your goal is to see what is the best dose and what is the best schedule to give that drug, and also what is the toxicity. Your key point is toxicity. Is it feasible to give that treatment to patients? Then when you are safe regarding the toxicity, you move to phase 2. And phase 2, you already define the best dose and schedule. Sometimes you have to define it a little bit better in phase 2, but the main goal of phase 2 is to treat more patients. It can go up to 100, more or less, with the treatment, and really characterize the toxicity of that treatment. So because only with the substantially more patients you can have a full picture of the toxicity. And of course you already have a hint about the efficacy. You start to see efficacy, if it shrinks the tumor, if it improves somehow any of the points that you want to improve related to the disease. Then if that happens and you have good indications of both toxicity and efficacy, you move to the phase 3, which is the largest trials that we have. It can go from a few hundreds to some thousands. And what you do there usually is to compare. You compare the new treatment with what we call the standard of care, or the best available treatment so far. And the goal is to prove that the new treatment is better, or sometimes that adding the new treatment to what we already have is also better. And then we have the phase 4. It's not very usual that we do phase 4, But phase 4 is when the drug is already approved, but you want to clarify a few extra things, either long-term toxicity, for example, or new indications, new groups of patients that you want to test the treatment. Let's say that all of them are important, of course, but our goal is always to have the randomized phase 3 trials to prove a new treatment.
That's interesting. Now, if it comes to the randomized trial, and you said this is when most of the patients participate, what is the procedure? How does it work?
So let's say that the first thing we need to do, the physician together with the patient, is to see if there is a trial available where would be a good fit for the patient. And so trials have what we call inclusion and exclusion criteria. And these are lists of situations that can tell us if the patient is a good fit for the trial or not.
And then if you find a suitable clinical trial with all the criteria fitting, what happens next?
So the next thing is what we call consent. So it's a process called informed consent. It means that I have to discuss with you what is the trial about, what is the treatment, what do we know already about that new treatment in terms of toxicity, in terms of efficacy, what would be your treatment outside the trial. So like you were saying, what is the standard of care? What would be, if I didn't have a trial, what would I give you? And what is the possible benefit of entering that specific trial? So all that is put into a paper called informed consent, but much more than the paper is the talk, so that you can ask questions and I can answer your questions and explain to you as best as possible. And then when you feel that all your questions have been addressed, and then you have to give your written consent that you have been informed, you know what it's about, and you want to voluntarily participate in the trial.
And what if after a certain time I realize this, for some reason, is not for me, it's too complicated, or I don't want to participate anymore? I mean, once I sign, I stuck to it, or?
No. Everything is voluntary, and it has to be voluntary. And the trial is watched, yes, by what we call an independent data monitoring committee. So that's an independent group of people who are not involved in the trial that will look at the trial as it goes along, and also look at data that we as investigators cannot see. So if they detect something unexpected toxicity, they may say stop the trial, okay? Or at certain points, they may look at the efficacy and decide this is going according to what we thought, so you continue the trial, or this is not going to be a good trial, you stop the trial. So you can be sure that there is this safeguard.